Are you ready to learn how to bend conduit like a pro? 5, that's going to be our deduct. So keep that in mind when we're doing 90s. We're doing some offsets, some saddles, maybe some 4 points, 3 points, and just in general how to bend conduit. So our deduct for a 90-degree bend on 1/2 inch conduit is 5 inches. So we're going to mark the length of how tall we want our 90 to be. In this case, we're going to go at 12. So we're going to make a mark here at 12. And then what we're going to do, we're going to subtract, going back towards where we pulled the tape from, 5 inches. And you could do the simple math in your head, or you can take your tape measure, pull the line, mark it, and then subtract, which is typically what I do, because sometimes you might wind up with a 3/8 or 1/4 inch mark, and it's easier to not get the math mixed up, especially as a beginner. One important thing to know when looking for a bender is probably don't get the Milwaukee bender. They don't have this flared handle design, and there's a couple of reasons why you want this flared handle. One would be the weight. Two, a really big one would be you can't use it as an axle. Those larger spools of wire, the 2,500 foot spools, that flared handle is going to stop that axle from walking left or right if you're trying to use your ladder to kind of hold up the wire and put the handle in the middle of it as an axle. So the flared design keeps it on the ladder, reduces the weight, and just makes it more comfortable for you guys to grab and pull on. So we're going to put our arrow on our mark that we deducted to. Remember, we started at 12, subtracted 5, so that's going to be 7 inches from the edge of that conduit. That's where we're going to put the arrow. Foot pressure here is key. You can see where I'm going to adjust my foot so I can get more leverage and more weight down on that pull. And as I'm pulling, I'm kind of stomping down or pushing down with my foot. And we're going to pull this right up to the perfect measurement of 12 inches. And you're going to see right here, this bender is what we call a keeper, because not all benders are like exact. This bender is dead on. So what you're going to see is what you call spring back, where you can see where the bubble is there. And if we put more tension here, that bubble is going to sway. So you got to always account for spring back, especially in your larger conduit. Because 1.25 and 2 inch conduit almost requires the bender to be holding tension way out here where it's not level, like this. And then once you let tension off of the bender, it'll actually bounce back to level. So you can see where it's actually level, but we had spring back tension on it. So if we want to do a back-to-back 90, we would need to measure from the back of this. When I started first bending conduit, all of my bends always ended up being just a little bit off, and I didn't know why. And it wasn't until somebody told me it depends the thickness of your conduit, which makes sense now. I didn't know if I was supposed to measure to the center of the conduit, or if I was measuring to the back, or the front, or what I was doing. I'm going to tell you right now, if you measure from the back of this conduit, your life is going to get a lot better, because the back of this conduit is almost like the floor was. So you always measure from the back to wherever you're bending. So in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to try for let's go for a 14 inch 90. And we're going to measure from the back of this conduit to our bend. So we want to get a back-to-back 90, 14 inches from back to back. And that's what's important to remember. You always measure from the back of your conduit to the back, the front of the conduit to the front. Depending on what you're doing, you always want to measure so you account for the thickness of your conduit. In this case, this is 1 1/8, being 3/4 conduit. And you can see that there. That's what we're looking for. So let's do 14 inches. In this case, just like we showed you the bender, we're going to take the bender and we're going to put it over here. And then we can get a pull from the back of our bender to our mark. Now, the last time that I did a back-to-back 90 was more than 7 years ago. So let's see if it's like riding a bicycle. Again, I was not prepared for this. Very few things that I ever do on this channel I'm prepared for. It's raw knowledge. There is no prep. I don't know the results. I don't know if I'm going to be right. I don't know if I'm going to be wrong. It's part of what honestly makes this channel great, because I don't stage anything. So hopefully we can get this right. We're going to mark 14 here, reluctantly. And we're going to measure back 5 inches because that's our deduct. We talked about that at the beginning of this video. Stubs to 5. A lot of people, they'll say the back of the 90 is the star. So we could do that. We could put the star right there. That's the star. We could put the star right here, and we could pull straight back. Sorry. Ha ha ha. Almost messed up. Remember, when we did our first bend, we measured from the edge of our pipe and we went backwards towards the arrow. So you always want to pay attention to which way your bender's facing, right? We could go to the back of the star, or we can measure forward 5 inches to deduct, because we're going to be subtracting the total of 14 from 5. So this should be closer to 9 if you were doing the math there. We should be able to measure 9. Or, yeah. Right there. I'm going to show you how to get that measurement if we were to mark from the back of this. But the star should be the back of the bend. I'm going to do it the really, really safe way, because I've never used this bender. I don't know what the star is going to do. So if we were like going from box to box that was like already set, you wouldn't have wiggle room of 3/8 or 1/4 inch. It would have to be like dead on. So we know that our arrow is dead on. We're going to subtract 5 inches this way to the 9, and then we're going to pull straight up. And we should get a 14 inch from here to the back of our bend. Is it going to happen? I don't know. It's been 7 years since I did this. That would be 9 there if we measured there. We're going to subtract 5 and see if we have 9 here. So we have a little bit less. We're gonna make sure that we are 5. You can see we're just slightly off. So we're gonna not trust our star and go with our arrow, because we know our arrow is dead on. And we're gonna adjust just slightly. Everything is fighting me tonight. And I mean everything. There we go. So what we're going to do to get the height of this, because the bender's taking up some height, we're going to take our clines. We're going to put it underneath there. We're going to lock our bender to where this doesn't roll left or right. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. And I'll show you how to mitigate that as well. So we're going to keep tension here as we lift this conduit up. Now there's 2 things we can do, because we're not looking at this measurement. We're looking at this. You can see where I rolled it. That's not good. So we need to make sure this conduit stays up and down. And the only way to know if we're truly up and down, because look, we can roll this. I could have this bender crooked and I could still make this level, right? And if we look, if the bender was in line with the conduit, we would say, no, it's not. So what we want to do, you can stick a level here, and then you can stick a level here, and that would tell you that you're uniform. You can eyeball it, or we can lay it back down and we can stick the clines underneath of it, which is what I'm going to do. We're going to stick the clines underneath of it and lock it back in. So clines are in. We're going to keep tension. We're going to roll it up. And we're going to eyeball it, because as an electrician, believe it or not, your eyeball is going to be the most used measurement. Now it rolled. It rolled again, so we're just going to use our eyeball. This is the easiest thing to fix, though. Now, there's two measurements that we're looking at. We're looking at this one here, and we're looking at this one here. And really, there's almost three, because we want to match the floor to know if this is level. So if you're on a scissor lift and your scissor lift is unlevel, if you match this bubble with your unlevel scissor lift, you're still going to get a level 90 or whatever you're doing. Works with all sets too. So our floor has a bubble touching this line. I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't know if I can zoom in or not. If YouTube will let me, it will. Let me see. Yeah. So the floor, you can see, is unlevel and the bubble is touching this line. When we put our level on the top of this conduit, we want this bubble to match. It's pretty close. It's dead level. Show you. It's like dead level. We actually want it right there. So what I'm going to do, that's that spring back what I was telling you about. We're actually just going to kind of keep our foot tension down here. And we're going to pull towards us to get this bubble to match the floor. Just going to adjust it right about there. That works. We're going to zoom out. And this bubble here should also match. So we're going to get our bender off. We're going to put our bender here as well. And we're going to see what that says. And as you can see, this bubble is barely touching the line too, so that is a good sign. Now, from the bottom of the floor here, the floor to the top of this, we should have 14 inches. And to be honest, I'm kind of nervous because this is live, so let's see. We have 14 inches exactly. So we have not lost our credibility. That is good news for the channel. Now we got one more thing we got to check because we're not done yet. We got to make sure this thing's not what you call dog-legged or kicked or anything. So what we're going to do, remember we eyeballed this, and this is an easy fix. We're going to bounce here on the pipe, and we're going to bounce here on the pipe, and you're going to notice, I can already see with my eyes, I can see that this is not straight. See how it teeters there? There's two ways of fixing this. We can stand it up and we can try to manhandle it like this. But the easiest way to do this is to turn it upside down and stomp on it. So what we're going to do, we know we want this part down. So we're going to sit it on the conduit like this. Just at one side. We're going to stand right here. and we're going to stomp down right here. And then we're going to assess. Has a little bit of bounce, but it's a lot better. It's good enough to put up. This is textbook, completely fine to put up. Only you are going to know that it's off by a 1/16 of an inch. And that's a back-to-back 90. Using the arrow. If we use the star, I showed you the measurements before and after with the star. This is the arrow method. I've always used the arrow method. I've never ran into something where I had to use the star. I wasn't a huge star user, honestly. If you want to know the technical Pythagorean theorem, this is not the channel for you. This is the nitty-gritty, get it done with high accuracy and throw it up and get your paycheck because you're a badass and you're running Conduit very quickly and nobody even knows that you're a 1/16 of an inch off. If you're trying to perfect a 1/16 of an inch running this stuff, you're never going to you're never going to keep up, or you're going to spend too much time worrying about the small stuff. Because that's a great 90. Back to back. Let me check the chat. Pipe has an angle. Just trying to check the chat. Let's see. You guys are talking amongst yourself a whole bunch. Just bought a Greenleaf 555. That is the 555 is a table bender, dude. That's a big bender. I love those things. The 555 will bend 4-inch rigid, which is what I used to do. Like a bunch. Like a bunch. I used to bend like consecutive 4 inches and roll them all into each other and do like purposely dog-legged offsets to make things roll in a certain way. I definitely miss running pipe, man. Benders cannot be explained in 22-minute Tuesday. It's hard to do 20-minute Tuesday when you start off with 10 minutes and the audio is off once again. What night should you go live? Friday night, 7 or 8, man. Just put it out in your, in your thing. Or just go live. Personally, look, I'm going to let you know right now. It's hard for me to... Once you get a really big channel and you get a really big following, man, it's hard to watch other YouTubers do their thing. Because every time, like for example, I put out a video today, it was a long format, and it did very well. It was talking about arc fault breakers. And it was a long format, and it got almost 3,000 views, which is like great for a long format video. And even though I did a long format video and it was absolutely killing it, I just couldn't sit around. I had to do more for you guys. So I made another sander video, and I make this and I make that. And it's like, mentally, I can't sit still. I wanted to play video games on my computer, but I just couldn't. What's going on, Amir? We're bending Conduit, dude. We just did a beautiful back-to-back 14-inch 90. So, if we wanted to do some kind of crazy bend where, let's do another bend in this, because this isn't out of the normal. It's probably a little bit too late to do an offset into, but I'm up for the challenge. So let's do an offset. Let's do an offset on this. Let's say we had a box down here, and we want to land on a box that's 3 inches taller. So we can do an offset on this pretty easily. We're going to do a 30-degree offset up. So what it's going to look like is we're going to kick this up here like this, and then this portion here is going to go flat. And we want to measure from the bottom of the floor, the top of the floor, the bottom here, to the bottom of our conduit needs to be at 3 inches. So what we know about 30-degree offsets is the multiplier is 2. So if I pick a point here, and the point is going to determine where my radius is here, because we can't put the bender in the radius without kinking it. But we got the benefit of having 1/2-inch pipe. Put my bender backwards. So we can probably get away with something like here. This is going to be super tight, by the way. We're going to make a mark here. And if we want a 3-inch 90, we got to go 6 inches. We might not be able to do this. Let's see. Let's do a 2-inch offset. And we'll space it at 4 inches. So we're just going to make a mark here. And we're going to make another space at 4 inches because the multiplier is 2. We're going to use 30 degrees. That's going to get us a 2-inch offset. So we're going to take our 2 inches, multiply it by 2 for a multiplier. We're going to go 4-inch spacing. And that should get us a 2-inch offset on this back-to-back 90. We're going to mark the 4. It's important to mark both sides of your conduit, especially if you're a beginner. So we're going to go ahead and do that because we're going to be rolling this conduit all different ways. So that just looks something like this, where you just kind of roll around it like this. Nothing too crazy. Like that, close enough. So we know that an offset looks like it's going to get pulled up first and then it's going to go flat. So that's going to kind of help us figure out which way do we want to roll this pipe. Now, if we wanted to start where this was on the top and we wanted to bend this conduit down, obviously our first bend is going to be right here. So we would know that we need to turn this conduit upside down and pull this up. But we're not doing that. We're gonna bend this portion up high. So where this portion here is going to be 2 inches off the floor to the bottom of the conduit. So let's bend 30 degrees on it. Bender's backwards again. Bender's backwards again. This is the front of your bender, and from where we made our measurements, that's where you measure from. So if you are not paying attention, you will surely mess this up. We're going to pull this up 30, then we're going to pull it down 30. And pulling it down 30 is not going to be fun. Trust me. Because we don't have any pipe to work with. We're going to stand here and kind of keep some tension on it. And we're going to try to level this out. Like I said, your eyeball is going to be your best friend in this case. A good rule of thumb to know if you're 30 degrees is when this hits level. That's kind of a rule of thumb. It's not a sure thing. Another good rule of thumb is not to buy a 45-degree level. Buy the ones with 30 on it. But I'm going to have to go get one of those here in a second. I've got one in the other room. But we're just going to pull this straight up and see what we got. Okay, at this point, I'm going to have to grab a level with 30 on it. See where this level, where this bender is starting to get more level? See where this is starting to get level at 30? Kick this up a little bit more. We're just a little bit more for spring tension like we talked about. Now we're going to bend this down. So we're going to pull this out. We're going to roll the pipe around. And we're going to pull down. And I don't even know if you can see this. But we're going to pull it straight down. And you got to have definitely some muscle memory for this. And this pipe is really short, so it's going to be pretty interesting anyway, as it is, to do this on camera. Let's see what it looks like. We're going to put it down. I don't know what you guys can see. I don't know what the degree is. We're going for 2 inches. We're actually 2.5 inches, so we're a little bit more. See what the bubble says. Remember, we want to match this bubble to this level portion here, which would actually be back here. So the bubble matches. The bubble's pretty close. We're about 1/2 inch too much, so we're going to have to take some bend out of this. There's 2 ways we can do that, especially with a crazy bend like this. We can turn it upside down and we can try to bend the bend out of it, which is what I'd recommend doing. So we're going to put it back in our bender. This is backwards, so we want to make sure we keep the bender the same direction that we pulled from. So if you recall, we pulled from this direction. So we want to put this in the bender backwards to get the bend out like this. And we can leave this on the floor and we can kind of just take a little bit of bend out. Remember, we don't want to dogleg it either. And it's only 1/2 inch, so this isn't the end of the world. If this was 1.25 inches, we'd be in a completely different boat. Let's see what we got. Now I can already tell that this is kind of bending down, but we're definitely on the right path because all we got to do is pull this up a little bit more and we should be right at 2 inches. So we're just going to put a little more bend in it right here, just like we did before. Looks interesting. Seeing your garage and what you have and what you're doing motivates me to keep going in life and not lose sight of the bigger picture. Thank you. The only thing stopping you is you. You got to decide what you're willing to tolerate with, what you're willing to live with, what you want, and you got to go get it. And I feel like I've got way too much knowledge here to just not share it. So here we are. Let's do a 4-point saddle. Or is there anything else we can do to this conduit? I don't think there is. We could probably do another 90 here, kick this up, but remember, you can't go more than 360 degrees in a bend. So we got 30 here, we got 30 here, that's 60 plus 90, so we have 180 degrees plus 60. And this pipe isn't even 4 foot long. We still got to go 100 more feet and then set another box. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing fancy bends out there. It's almost impossible to push a fish tape through this crap. And this is only 5 foot long. So let me show you what it looks like pushing the fish tape through this, and you can see how difficult this is. This is not the fish tape that I wanted, but we will use this one. Looking for the steel one. I've got it here somewhere. Not too bad. You can definitely feel the resistance as you're pushing it in to where it's taking all the turns. Nylon's kind of cheating to a certain extent because it just rolls with it. A steel one's definitely going to give us that more kind of bouncy action, but you can hear that resistance there. Imagine this being, 170 foot long. Sometimes it takes all your weight and you got your clients and you're just like feeding that crap in there like 3 inches by 3 inches as it's going. Kind of like my love life. So first thing you're going to do, you're going to measure how tall your obstruction is and how long before you can start your next offset. So we're going to measure up here. We got 10 inches to the bottom. Now keep in mind, a mini strap is 1/2 inch off of this. So we're actually going to go for 10.5. If we do 30, our multiplier is going to be 2, which is going to give us 22.5 inches of where we're going to mark our conduit for our 30-degree bend. The next measurement that's relevant is how wide or how long is the obstruction. So we're going to see that it's 8 inches. And what we know from radiuses, we can make this just a little bit tighter. So we can actually make this 7-inch spacing because our curves are going to be just inside here. So we could do 9 inches to be safe, and our flat is going to finish out here, and then it's going to come down like an offset. I don't like to do that. I like to have my radiuses inside of my obstruction. It just looks really, really clean. So we're going to go 7 inches. So we are going to mark like this. We got to start somewhere, so we're just going to pick a measurement. We're just going to say, 10. So we're going to mark 10. Then we're going to measure 22 because 10.5 times 2 would be 22. So we're going to go down here and we're going to mark 22. Let me see if I can zoom out. How do we pick a different camera? Hang on. Nope. Hang on. What does that button do? Not that one. That one. Perfect. We're going to measure 22 all the way over here. That's our 22. Then we're going to measure our 7. That's where we're not going to bend at all. That's going to go right here, pretty much, if you will. Here's your visualizer. So we're going to mark 7. Roughly. And I'm going to mark it on both sides. Because we're going to be rolling this conduit a whole bunch. And then we're going to go 22 again, which is here. Way over here. It's going to take this whole conduit. So we have 4 points. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. And I'm going to try to bend this all in front of you. But I'm going to do it fairly quickly, so let's see if we can do it. First mark goes here. I'm going to try and roll that down so you guys can see it. Here's the first mark there. We're going to bend it down to 30. Now, one important thing, one of the most valuable things that I learned, I'm going to try and bring this tripod up one-handed. I don't know if I can do it. Okay. This is the most important thing that I probably learned. When you are looking at your 30 degrees here, you're going to see right now that this bottom of the pipe is not touching 30 degrees. It's actually level with it. And that's where you want to be. This is a 30-degree bend, whether you know it or not. Pretty damn close right there. You don't want this on the 30. Whenever I started bending pipe, I always thought I needed to touch the 30 to the bottom of this pipe. That's not true at all. We want to be parallel to it. That's, if not, they just have a dot here, but they got a line. Bend 30. We're going to spin this pipe around like we would do an offset. We're going to slide down to our 22-inch mark here, and we're going to roll our conduit like this. Rolling our conduit. So let me see if I can get you guys a good look at that. You guys see down there, we're trying to line this conduit up. Gotta find that. Here it is. We're going to bend straight down to 30 again. There. Now, a lot of people make a mistake and they'll roll this conduit. You don't want to roll this conduit. We want to bend down again. So we're going to slide this down. And we're going to pull down to 30 again. So it's looking like this. And I got to check the camera to make sure you guys can see. Which is kind of hard to do. Yeah, you guys can see it. So we're going to eyeball it, line it up. And then we're going to pull back down again. Like this to 30. Now we're going to pick our bender up and we're going to roll back down, upside down to our 22. And you're going to kind of see what's going on here. We're fixing to make this thing happen with this last bend. We could turn this over at this point and pull up like you would if you're doing a 90, but we're going to stick overhand. And we are a little bit dog-legged, by the way. So there's 30. If we turn it upside down like I was telling you about, you're going to see here. Let's get it off the bender. Let's get our Animal Crossing box and let's see how we did. Or not Animal Crossing. What is it? Nintendo. Same thing. Moment of truth. Beautiful, man. So we are really close. We're not perfect. We still got a little bit of tweaking to do. But you can see if we had a 1/2-inch strap here, we would clear it. That would be our strap there for a 1/2 inch. You can see we were level on the floor there. And we're level on the floor there. This is actually good enough to put up. So if we measure underneath here, we need 1/2 inch, which would be, I think that's about 3/4 of an inch if I had to guess. Why is this pencil? No, pencil's 1/2 inch. Right there. 1/2 inch, so we can put the pencil underneath of it. So there we go there. We got room for our strap. We're on the floor there. And we're on the floor there. And remember when I told you about the radiuses? How I like my radiuses to turn? Remember we measured 7 inches. We didn't measure 8. And you're going to see my radius started right there. Right where it starts there. And my radius started here. If you're trying to do more obstruction or something, you could definitely do the 8 or you could do 10 or something. And that would just bring your flat out a little bit further. Give you a little bit more wiggle room. But I always like to get as close as I could just to, I mean, I just think it looks great, man. The middle of your radius here, being on the edge of this where it matters, was always something that I liked. So that's a pretty darn good 4-point saddle. Sorry, the garage is a mess. Use your peckers about 1/2 inch. That's a good idea, man. That's usually what I use. Sometimes I gotta fold it in half to get 1/2 inch. But either way it works. You know, you got a 1 inch, you just gotta fold it in half to get half. By putting your body on the side, let your drill hit the torso instead of resting on it. By putting your body on the side. Oh, yeah. Yeah, using a drill. Trying to catch up through the chat. That's all I'm doing right now. The first measurement looked like 7. Yeah, I did 7 purposely. Because I think that the radiuses look better. The measurement was actually 8. Measurement was 8. But you're not mistaken. I marked 7 purposely because I like the way it looks. I like that my radiuses are just barely missing to where it's like, honestly, it's like perfect. I always took off 3/4 to 1 inch off of my obstructive measurement because I think it just looks better. That's just me. But you could absolutely still stick to 8, but I did 7 purposely. Mofo. Yeah. So it's been an hour, man. That's we did a backpack 90, we did a 90, we did an offset, and we did a 4-point saddle. If we want to do a 3-point saddle, do I want to do a 3-point saddle? Let's see here. Thank you for the stream. I'll be back for the next one. I appreciate that, man. I'm glad I found this stream. It was meant to be because I haven't seen any lives pop up in a while scrolling through YouTube for weeks. Nice, man. I'm glad you're here and appreciate all the support. And yeah, that's what we do here, man. It's just a real YouTube channel. There's nothing to hide, dude. Why pretend to be a character on YouTube when you're yourself every day? I don't understand that. You know, a lot of people will start their streams and they'll have this persona like they know everything, or you'll see a video, they'll be standing behind a desk and they'll try to tell you everything about it. And the truth is they don't even know what the hell they're talking about once they get off camera. They've just researched it. And then you look in there and you're like, well, I've done that for 10 years. You know, why should I watch somebody pretend like they know what they're talking about? Like, how can you trust somebody, or how do you even know who to trust? So I made this channel for you guys just to share the knowledge, because I feel like there's just a bunch of fakes on the internet. It's just a bad feeling out there, you know? You don't really know who you can trust. Even people that you've learned from on YouTube, they don't have a personality and they're afraid to be themselves. And I know I'm not the best looking or I got the best voice. I certainly don't have the best freaking voice to listen to for an hour. But you know, what else are you going to get? You can't ask anybody a real life question and then be able to freaking look it up in the code book in 5 minutes. You know, they're too afraid to it. They're afraid to look like an idiot. I'm not afraid to look like an idiot. I don't care if I don't know. If I don't know, it's my chance to learn. You know, you can ask me anything in this code book right now, and I'll look it up for you, and I'll show you how to look it up. And if I don't know the answer, my name's Robert, by the way. If I don't know the answer, I'll show you how to look it up. You know, you just go back to this index. That's why we do these things live. What is Bud yapping about? Fake ass YouTube channels that don't have any accountability. Tell you the freaking sky is blue. They get on camera and tell you about what's new and what you should go buy and spend your money on that never even bought it themselves or used it or anything. You know, Tools of Soul's nice. Tools of Soul might be an asshole, man, but he's a real asshole. You know, I'm a real asshole, but I'm not a jerk. I'll just tell you as it is. If you don't like it, I can't help that. But you know, I'll just let you know the way it is. So if you guys got any questions or anything in a video, or, you know, yeah, unless you're sensitive, yeah. You know, so that's the only thing, is there's certain things we can't talk about. It's just not good for the channel. Yes. The answer is yes. I can't respond to anything else about that question other than yes. I like deleting trolls. Yeah. Don't delete too many, man. I don't mind trolls, dude. They don't bother me.